My game, Sliding Glide, almost didn't happen. After 2.5 years of game development, there were moments with this game when I thought it wasn't going to see the light of day. But after a wild ride of highs and lows, it's finally here. Sliding Glide is officially on Steam. If you love platforming, fast-paced combat, and action-packed exploration, you can download it now or add it to your wish list. But before you dive in, let me take you behind the scenes of how this game almost fell apart and why it makes it even better today. When I started, I thought I had all the time in the world to work on my game, and I was wrong. Life happened, unexpected delays occurred, and before I knew it, I was taking a huge break from YouTube in 2023 because I was falling behind. Then a teacher told me that changed everything. Life is unpredictable. Always work at least 3 days ahead because you never know what will slow you down. That advice saved Sliding Glide. Instead of waiting for the perfect time to work on my game, I started making daily progress, and that momentum finally pushed my game across the finish line. This means that every level, every enemy, and every boss fight has been tested, polished, and fine-tuned because I refuse to let delays keep me from making the best game possible. Some days, I just couldn't figure things out. The combat wasn't clicking, enemy AI wasn't behaving correctly, and movement sometimes felt clunky. I made a rule for myself: no zero progress days. If I got stuck on one problem, I moved on to another one, whether it was level design, enemy AI, or working on some art for the game. I always made sure I was making progress on Sliding Glide. And now, combat is fluid and fast-paced as ever, and every fight is designed to keep you on your toes without making it feel unfair. At first, I had no real way to track my progress. I would go into a day with no idea what I was going to be working on, and this allowed me to easily get distracted and not make progress on my game. It was a mess. Then I started setting clear goals for every day, week, and month, and I used Notion to track my tasks, and this made a huge difference. But my biggest lesson: planning is important, but flexibility is key. Some things take longer than expected, and some things went faster than what I thought they would. Being able to adjust without losing focus was crucial, and now every encounter, whether it's platforming or combat, or just simple exploration, is now balanced for you to have the best experience I could create. I'll be honest, I cut corners early in my development and it came back to haunt me. For example, I didn't add any sound effects to the game until a month and a half before release, and this was a massive mistake. The entire time, my game felt lifeless, and once I realized what I needed to do a month and a half before release, the crunch was on. Another example was enemy AI. Enemies were super slow and very predictable, which at times is good, but when every enemy acts the same way, it creates a not so fun game to play, and that is why I then went back and took the time to really design each enemy to be different, to have different movement when attacking the player instead of just running right at them. And now, because of this, enemy encounters are much more fun to play, and because of the sound effects are so much crunchier and impactful, and really makes the players more engaged in the experience they're having. And then there were some problems that felt impossible to fix, and that is when I took a step back and took a new approach to fixing them. My first example of this was the save system. I tried 3 different times to create a save system, and I just couldn't figure it out. And that is when I realized, and before I tell you, it was a pretty dumb mistake on my part, but I was using Godot 3, and all these tutorials I was watching were made for Godot 4. And that is why I made this video, showing how I transferred my Godot project from Godot 3 to Godot 4. And it made a huge improvement on the game's performance and looks, and just made development even easier. But the biggest thing was that I now implement the save system, and now you can save where you were and come back later to continue your adventure. My second example, which took a lot longer to fix and was a lot harder than just switching to Godot 4. And this issue was a huge performance issue with the lake biome. Originally, this biome would run at a very inconsistent 30 FPS, and when I say 30 FPS, it really was running around like 12 FPS. It was pretty bad. And at first, all my biomes were all in one scene, so I figured that was the problem. And I split all the biomes up into their own scenes, and that still didn't work. I tried fixing some code and cleaning it up. That didn't work. And then eventually, I realized that the way I was rendering these water tiles was slowing down the game's performance. And now, coming from that original inconsistent 30 FPS, the game now runs at a consistent, smooth 220 frames per second. And this was a huge jump, and I wouldn't be able to have done this as if I just kept going at it the same way I was. In this scenario, I took multiple steps back to really try all these different avenues, and because of this, you as a player can play through the game with a consistent performance. And now again, Sliding Glide is officially on Steam, so if you love tight platforming and fast-paced combat and a little bit of exploration sprinkled in, please check out Sliding Glide on Steam. And if you're not in the market to buy a game right now, just wishlist it and come back to it when it goes on sale. And if you want to see the final 3 weeks of progress I made on Sliding Glide, you can watch the video in the top right-hand corner. And if you're still not sold on the game yet, you can watch the release trailer in the top left-hand corner. Thank you all for watching. Your support and feedback is greatly appreciated. And if you don't want to miss any of the next projects I make, you can find the subscribe button down below, so please go and hit that. And this is RBC Mr. Rhodes signing off for now.